Good afternoon. So the poll winner this week was setting and maintaining boundaries, which I thought was a very interesting topic. Mainly because when I asked the question on the group, what does that mean for you? Like what is it that you want to know about maintaining and setting boundaries? Only one person answered, and what they answered with, even though it won the poll, was I keep saying yes. I don't know how to stop saying yes to people. I'm a yes person. I'm a people pleaser, which is what I was hearing and what the person said there. So it's interesting because I'm going to try and take a stab in the dark guess as to what setting and maintaining boundaries might mean for the people that voted on the poll. And it feels to me like, you know, it might be around relationships, it might be how we think we are with others, it might be how we label ourselves as being a yes person. I think, to be honest with you, we all know intuitively whether something feels right or feels wrong. That's what I guess. Whenever I speak to people, if they talk to me about I should set a boundary, there's an intuitive knowing that something's not right. And I think the basic question really you want to ask yourself is, do I want this in my life? It's kind of that simple. Now, what we have a tendency to do, all of us humans, it's a bit like if you've got anxiety or if you've got an addiction or you've got a habit that you want to change. We want to look at the thing, like I talk about the iceberg analogy quite a lot. I talk about this in my freedom program, is we look at the thing and we look that we want something to change. We want to add on. So we want to do something differently. So we think, this isn't working for me. I need to know how to set and maintain boundaries because that will mean I'm safe. So we look to the behaviour as being something that we can change, and then we Google and look up like how to set and maintain boundaries because that will mean that this person won't treat me like this and this person won't treat me like that. That's what I'm sort of guessing in that, or that we've labelled ourselves some kind of doormat. Okay, now what I want you to see, or what I want you to try and hear in all of these videos that I do, is that it's much simpler than you think. And if I go back to the iceberg analogy, it's the tip of the iceberg is the thing that we see as the problem. So for us it might be I'm getting shat on and I'm a doormat. For others it might be I've got anxiety. For some it might be I drink too much. For others it might be I eat too much. But within all of that it's like we're not okay, and here's the problem. There's the tip of the iceberg. Now what you see when you see the tip of the iceberg is 10% of that iceberg. That's all you see. That's all that's visible to us. That's what other people see. It's what we see as being wrong with us. So we think, I know, I'm going to change this. I'm going to add on something. So in this case, it's if I can just set a boundary, then this will mean whatever we've made it mean. And that's the thing, is there's going to be a lot of thinking around what that means about you and who you are as a person. Now, what I point to in all the work that I do is that underneath the water, what's invisible to us is 90% of that iceberg. So the 90% of you that's invisible is your wholeness, is your wisdom, is your completeness, is the person that doesn't need boundaries, that doesn't need to set boundaries, is the person who's anxiety-free, habit-free, problem-free, but for the thinking that makes sense to us in a moment, right? So understanding how all human beings work is going to be more beneficial for you than learning how to set boundaries. And the thing that I was thinking about this as well, like boundaries, putting like a box around something. And that's again what a human mind will do, a machine brain, which is essentially what we've got, will do. We want to put everything in a box, including us, including our personality, including our character traits, including other people's character traits. Whereas love and your wisdom and intuition is boundaryless. There's no boundaries around love. So that means for me as an individual, I might allow my son one day to speak to me in a certain way because I love him unconditionally, but then another person might say the same thing to me, and I think, oh no, I need some boundaries around that. I need to assert myself, I need to become assertive, I don't want to allow this in my life. But it's usually because we're taking it to mean something about us as being, we've labelled ourselves a doormat. Now, if you can come from that space, like everything changes, everything's moving, what means a boundary, what makes a boundary for us one day might not necessarily make a boundary for us another. And when you start putting boundaries on relationships and yourself, you're forgetting that the essential being that you are and that we all are, and coming back to my beginning point, which is when you come from that place, you instinctively know what's right and what's wrong and how you want to be treated without putting boundaries in place. When you come from a place of love for yourself, you intuitively know that that person isn't treating you right. You intuitively know that maybe you're not treating yourself right. When you know there's nothing to fix about you, you stand in a different space. If you're coming from a habitual place of people pleasing and needing validation from others to be safe and be okay, that's where we can kind of get caught up in our thinking that looks very real to us in a moment. And usually that's around, I'm not good enough. That's my experience. So really, what I'm always going to be pointing you to, and the work that I do with my clients always, is for you to see, to really see something deeper about all human beings, about how we all work, and about how the fact that you don't need to add on anything for something to really, truly, deeply change. Going back to the iceberg analogy, all it takes with the iceberg is for you to raise that temperature 0.5% and it starts to melt away. And once you really see that, we call it like a sea change, like I really see how human beings work. I don't personalize stuff. Things that look very real to you start to melt away. So in my own experience, when people have treated me, in my opinion, like shit, in the past, I would have gone into my head, I would have made it mean something about me, I would have talked about it with my friends, they would have all agreed with me. Everyone would say, well, you need to set boundaries, you need to learn how to set boundaries. That's old paradigm. Now what I see is I trust my intuition. If someone's treating me like shit, I walk away, I move away. I don't have to put up with it, I don't need it. And that person who's doing it is doing it for whatever reason they're doing it. It doesn't mean I have to set boundaries with that person. I just have to choose myself. I choose to love myself within that and see that hurt people hurt people. So there's always less to do than you think. And options always look very real to us with the thinking that looks real to us. And that's what a mind will do. It will make meaning of something, it will stereotype people, it will give people labels, it will give us labels, not seeing the 90% that's invisible of all human beings. So this is probably not the answer that you were hoping for, because I don't work in old paradigm psychology. I work in the new paradigm, which is to point you towards the truth of all human beings. And there's always less to do than you think. There's always less to do than you think. And setting boundaries feels like it's going to be hard work. But when you come from a place of knowing who you are, trusting your intuition, feeling into what's right and what's wrong, intuitively, then that gives you the freedom to walk away without having to add anything on. I hope that makes sense. Let me know what you hear in that, if anything, or if there was something that you want me to expand on further. Of course, I talk about all of this and much more in my programs and in my circle group. But for now, I'm going to bid you farewell, and I'll talk to you very soon, hopefully. Ciao.